Now, what I've learned from you folks is we're trying to track prompts or questions. Can you unpack that a bit?
It makes a lot of sense because, not to go into the psychology of anything, but we are wired for comfort. And so if we can have a place to go that curates and does all the research for us so that we can move faster with clearer decision making.
If search used to be two-dimensional and it was just blue links on top of blue links, now it's three-dimensional. It's not just like, am I being listed, but what's being said about me? How do I understand that over time? How do we analyze it? Like, we're building tools to like analyze like the sentiment over time to see, okay, how is this changing or not? But again, it just adds another dimension.
No BS news about B2B go-to-market. This is GTM News Desk with me, your host, Mark Killens, and my co-host for this season,
Rachel Eltz Downey. Mark, what's on your mind?
Welcome to the show. Another day, another set of GTM news, Rachel.
And another recurring topic, I feel.
Well, I mean, we're just taking the cues in the playbook from mainstream media, right?
Totally fair. That's right.
I mean, AI is just exploding. It's going to be interesting to see how many additional commercials about AI come out between now and the Super Bowl. There's been a lot during football games. You see Google, Apple, ChatGPT, Claude. Have you seen any others like really promoting AI?
I almost feel like I'm desensitized to it at this point. What I am noticing though is I have like small kids. My youngest is 9, and I'll have like a question and I'll say out loud, and instead of saying, "Why don't you Google that?" she'll say, "Why don't you ChatGPT it?" And I'm like, "Oh no!" Like it's everywhere.
It is, and AI search, the focus for today's episode, sometimes called AEO. AI engine optimization, which I don't like, and then even worse, GEO, generative engine optimization. I think we should just call this AI search, Rachel, is a very, very big topic. So in the first segment, I found a great buyer behavior report from G2. As you folks know, who have been listening for a long time, myself and Rachel, huge believers in people first go to market. And if you take the time to study what is going on with your buyers and customers in terms of how they are using the internet, how they're using digital and in-person experiences to buy something, you will have a better chance of probably landing them as a customer because you're going to match how you sell and how you market to how they buy. So this G2 report gives you a lot of insight into how to make that match happen, Rachel. AI search is one of the top 3 ways people are doing research now. It's Google, it's AI search, and it's review sites. That's the top 3.
And I think it makes a lot of sense because, not to go too into the psychology of anything, but we are wired for comfort. And so if we can have a place to go that curates and does all the research for us so that we can move faster with clearer decision making, I think it makes intuitive sense. That's what we're all going to start see happening as we continue to see AI search grow and grow and grow.
Yeah, I mean, the buying journey is awareness, consideration, decision. And in this report, they found 4 to 5 people said that AI search has changed how they conduct research.
I mean, it's changed how I do it.
What has it changed for you? What has it changed?
I mean, you can sort of do almost like peer-reviewed research by checking places like ChatGPT compared to Google and just see what answers come up. And then now that, ChatGPT specifically, sources everything, you can now like clarify where that information is coming from. And so you have more confidence in the results that it's giving you. My third place of going to sort of do my due diligence would be asking a human. Is this an accurate reflection? That kind of vibe. But it's definitely changed my ability to move faster as opposed to starting with people first and going and asking like 3 of my friends. I'll do some research first and then narrow my options before then bringing it to a person.
Yeah, you have to now influence people, AI search, LLMs, and the bots behind them. So like people, bots, agents, and the bots are getting smarter. Nigel breaks this down masterfully in segment number 3, Rachel. When I was talking to Nigel, there's so many takeaways from that segment, but one of the big ones is moving from a ranking strategy to an influence strategy. And you have to influence those 3 things I just mentioned, people, bots, agents, But these LLMs, the AI search engines, are using data from LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, Reddit, and other places to train their models. So if you don't have a strategy to, first off, like show up in AI search, like get on that ASAP. And number two, you're gonna like minimize your risk to the future of how this channel is gonna continue to explode probably, especially to your point with younger generations. I mean, that's undeniable, right?
Well, yeah.
And then one other crazy stat, I mean, maybe it's not crazy, but one other interesting stat from this report, Rachel, is 1 out of 3 people are saying they are more productive with AI search than traditional search. And I would argue that's actually kind of low. I would have expected that to be well north of 50%.
Well, I still feel like there's a learning curve on how to actually curate the bots for information. So I think that's probably why you see that is people have to ask better questions. And I think a lot of people aren't good at asking questions. That's a different take and a different angle we could go down. But I do think there's some truth around like learning how to prompt to be able to get the information that you actually need. And that does take experience in the field that you're in to know what questions to even ask. That's totally not backed by science in terms of the report that you have, but that would be my gut.
No, it's good. I mean, the practical tip I give you all listening today is get a business grade, I think it's ChatGPT Pro account for your team. So it secures your data, it secures your customers' data, your intellectual property. That's the main reason you do this. But the other reason is, to your point, Rachel, get your team in the habit of using it and practicing how to write better prompts, how to ask better questions, how to be more curious using an AI search type engine. And if they're not doing it in their personal life, okay, that's fine. But like, you really need to make it part of, at a minimum, how your company is integrating AI into how it works, into how it creates and brings products to the market. So yeah, that's, to me, like, I think this G2 report gives you a lot of duh moments, but also there's some aha moments saying like, I can no longer ignore this. I need to take action. I still need to do fundamental SEO stuff. You'll hear that from Nigel. He'll unpack that. But we are entering a whole new era of discoverability that you just cannot ignore.
Well, and I think to me, it actually reminds me of a really trending topic that was really, really big last year, which was this idea of like owned media. And I think the reality is there's no such thing as owned media, but you should own your narrative. And I think that's a challenge a lot of brands have is they're still figuring out who they are. And so they have to be careful about the content they put out because that's how they're going to be found. Nobody in B2B wants AI slop, and yet we're dishing it out. And so when we think about influence over ranking, I think about it in terms, of course, of content production and media and what you're putting out there. And one of the things that I always like to say is focus on being a credible insider. And the way that you become a credible insider is talking about the thing you know the most about. And even if that thing evolves, but talk about it in a way that allows you to distribute your content across all of those places that the bots are getting their information from. So that's the thing that comes to mind for me as we think about the conversation with Nigel and sort of this idea of nobody in B2B wants this.
I see how you kind of just segued nicely into your segment. Nobody in B2B wants AI slop. I'm going to push back and be like, no shit, Rachel.
But we're still doing it. We're still doing it because people aren't taking the time to slow enough down to say, who are we for and what should we be talking about? What is the thing that we want people to find us for? Because we're not playing the ranking game, we're playing the information game. And so to me, that's where the power of media becomes like so powerful. You can like, create media rich content so that you're showing up in search and then you're distributing it across Reddit. Again, Facebook, hello, it's not dead. All of these places that people are looking for information, but more importantly, all of the places the bots are like crawling for information because it is an Internet of Things. It's grabbing all the information and finding the most relevant answer based on what people are inputting. And so I don't know from your experience, but I know that we're starting to get more leads that come from ChatGPT. And my first question is, what did you ask? Like, what did you search for to find us? So that we can go back and go, do we want them to find us for that? And if we do, we need to be the one owning that narrative in our space and creating a ton of content around it.
Goes back to one of the 3 things that is foundational to people first go to market, storytelling. It's how do you craft the right stories, the right narratives? And yes, 1 out of 8 people who book an Easy Llama demo come from an AI search engine. 1 out of 8. And we're doing,
Crazy.
there's like 500 demos a quarter. So this is like big numbers. This isn't like small stuff. Like,
Yeah.
And that's gone up, like almost doubled in like less than 6 months. It's like 1 out of 16, now it's 1 out of 8. So that's interesting. Yes, and now you can see even with like something like a HubSpot or a GA, they're giving you the referring site as an AI search site. I forget exactly how they do it. Each kind of attribution tool maybe says it differently. But yeah, you can see like this is coming not just from like Google or being miscategorized as direct traffic. It's coming from AI search. Again, Nigel is going to unpack all this. One of the big things, to your point, Rachel, is prompt tracking. And like there's Profound, there's AirOps, there's a couple of others, a lot of like also kind of like slimy, I would say, AI search vendors, agencies. I mean, that definitely reminds me a little bit about like Black Hat SEO back in like 2006, 7.
Yep.
2005. But there's also just a lot of practical things you can and should be doing. To your point, you need to think through your like overall media strategy, which is content, media, social
distribution,
distribution, like all of it, right? And how do you influence those smarter bots, the agents, and the people at the end of the day?
We never have AI be the author of anything that we have our clients create, because AI is not original. Because it is like a master curator, it's taking content and ideas that already are out there. So we want to work with our clients to be like, what is your unique point of view, your unique stance, so that you're the only one who can be pulled for some of these things. And I think that's an important thing for people to think about, is like, you don't want to just like regurgitate what AI is giving you. You want to like feed the algorithm something that's actually worth repeating, worth like standing out about, not just like kind of peanut butter spread what people are already saying.
Yeah, I mean, just a lot of people want to cut corners. You know, boards, CEOs, other people, I mean, marketers, like people like to cut corners and get to things faster. And that's what AI lets you do, but then there's a cost to that, right? Like the output,
that's right,
you know, is usually a lower quality type output. So yeah. I mean, it's interesting.
Well, I'm anxious to hear your conversation with Nigel. Should we get into it?
Let's go. Nigel is going to unpack a lot of things, folks. Take a lot of notes, and you can find him organic growth marketing. And he works with some of the top B2B brands, Rachel. So this guy knows what he's talking about. So take a listen. All right, Nigel, welcome to the news desk. How are you today?
Great. How you doing, Mark?
I'm good. We're recording this in the morning on a sunny Friday. We just met in person the other week, which was quite enjoyable. Had a delicious meal. So folks, Nigel and I go too far back, but back enough to have dinner together. But he's based in Spain. And Nigel, you've been in the SEO space for how long?
Like 15 years, something like that.
It's a good amount of time. One of the reasons why I wanted to have Nigel come on the show is to help us all better understand the changing landscape, AI search, and we're going to go deep. We're also going to go high level. He and his amazing company, Organic Growth Marketing, support my team at Easy Llama. A very quick and important shout out to amazing Carmen, who runs our strategy with the Easy Llama team. I love Carmen. But yeah, Nigel, like give everyone a primer on maybe like your background, 1 minute, and then dive right into what the heck is going on.
Yep, good call. Okay, so yeah, I worked at a couple weird companies in San Francisco. Nobody like grows up and says I want to be an SEO when I grew up. So I got out of school, got one weird job, got another weird job, and then worked at Big Commerce and ended up leading the SEO effort there. And what that taught me was I learned a bunch of weird kind of technical, semi-spammy SEO stuff at other companies. And then there I was like, okay, this is a B2B brand. It's very different. There's more on the line. So I sort of had to pair my content background with my newly found weird SEO knowledge, and then sort of figured out how to combine both of those together. Ended up having a quarter life crisis, left San Francisco, went to Thailand, said I want to wake up and without a job and see what happens. Do I still want to do SEO? Turns out I did more SEO than I ever did before. Ended up supporting lots of companies like Miro, Intercom, Coda, Segment over the years, and then gradually built a team around it. So yeah, that's the high level TLDR.
Those are some legit logos. And yeah, I mean, Big Commerce. I mean, that is a huge SEO, or maybe was or still is, but like, HubSpot, I was at HubSpot for a long time, as you know, all about SEO. So give everyone your take on what is happening like right now. Like, let's just start like in the present moment.
For sure. So I'll do a quick callback. We did a webinar. What was it, like a year and a half ago? I don't even know. It's time is a blur. And I was saying that we sort of had, we were still mostly in the previous search paradigm of there's blue links, and Google was starting to add AI stuff. ChatGPT was out, but it wasn't super far along. Now we're like a foot and a half into the new paradigm, which is there's AI answers for everything, which there's all these debates online about, is SEO GEO? Is GEO SEO? I think these conversations are like generally people talking past each other and not seeing the forest for the trees, because there's things like, is it fundamentally people are going to a tool and trying to solve a problem, and that's SEO? Yes. And then at the same time, trying to get your blue link on top of other blue links is just fundamentally different than, okay, there's this answer that pulls from all these different sources. Someone may click through, they may not. How do we think about that? So I think that's one thing. And then another thing is that for my whole career, like SEO was always this weird misunderstood thing, but there was a very broad mental model. It's like, I produce content, I build links and authority, that's the inputs, and then the outputs are, I rank in search, I get clicks, I get conversions, I get revenue. And I think every single part of that has now been disrupted. My own feeling is that there's as much value as there ever been in search, except we have to think about it differently and measure it differently and not go about it in the exact same way.
Well said. 1 out of 8 people who fill out our demo request form they're telling us this, they come from an AI search tool, ChatGPT being the biggest. 1 out of 8. And we have like hundreds and hundreds of people submitting this every quarter. So the volume is quite high, Nigel. So there's been a massive change for us in the last 6 or so months from like our buyers and customers. The other thing I'll point out is I do think this is a new channel, and marketing folks have been wanting a new channel, right? We've been kind of stuck. I mean, TikTok, sure, but like how many B2B marketers are really using TikTok? And maybe that's a problem, but I don't know. But like, this is a new channel, and you could argue there's maybe multiple new channels. ChatGPT is pretty much the big one. I mean, I know you folks do some stuff with Claude and help us with Claude and other clients, but like, it's really ChatGPT, right? Like, that's kind of what we're talking about here.
Yeah, I think like Gemini, ChatGPT, AI mode, though, and Perplexity, like also throw in there. I think that's like a semi-performative. Like, I don't think that what's happening in Perplexity is making or breaking any business. The one thing I add is I sort of view what the different models say is it's interesting to look at where they all recommend the same brands and where they don't. Because if we see someone doing really well on 3 and then not well on Claude, I don't think anyone can say, oh, here's what you do for Claude. Like, that's BS. Like, no one knows exactly. But it's more so like, oh, it's interesting when there's model consensus and when there's not. And when I just view it as a heuristic, when there's not model consensus, it means it's not as clearly understood that, like, we solve this problem, for example.
So really, there's Google and ChatGPT, which is like AI mode, Gemini. It's Google, ChatGPT. We used to track keyword rankings. And then I think it was over 10 years ago, Google said, no, we're not going to give you keyword data anymore. And like, it all went away. We now, what I've learned from you folks is we're trying to track prompts or questions. Can you unpack that a bit? How you measure the top set of data, like the, you know, the beginning part of the AI search funnel, if you will.
I will get to that in a sec, but I'll first start with a bit of a disclaimer, which is that, like, I think, again, there was always uncertainty in search, but in general, there's personalization. You generally rank the same way, and you can generally predict click-through and conversion. And now what I think we have is, like, we have to look at multiple different data sets, and they're all flawed in and of themselves. I'll be the first one to say that. And, like, if anyone wants to poke holes in any of this, you absolutely can. And my take is like, well, we got to have something. So with the prompts, what we're doing is saying, okay, if before we were all conditioned to searching keywords, right? Like almost like monkeys, like best CRM for this. And like, that was like the most that you would do. And now we're being reconditioned where, oh, you can actually use natural language. You can ask detailed questions. Like, I think everyone's had an aha moment with ChatGPT early on where you're just used to saying, if I have this very specific nuanced question, I'm not going to get a good Google search result. We've all tried those. They would not work. Then you ask ChatGPT a very specific question. It goes, oh, based on this, how about this? Now, maybe that's good information, useful, maybe it's not, but you're getting a very specific answer. So what that means is like the long tail is now kind of infinite. And I've seen a lot of people raise very good questions. Well, with personalization or when we don't know what people is searching, what is the point? Our position is that there is like a level of infinite long tail that we'll never be able to know anything, but by knowing your customer and by using third-party data, you can combine those to have an understanding of what matters to us. So let's take the example of Easy Law. It's like, okay, what courses matter to us that we know people are looking up? So looking for this course in this state, that's kind of keyword adjacent. But then an area we dove into with your team was, okay, but what are the reasons people switch? What are the pain points? These are the type of things that in traditional search, you just wouldn't need to track or care about, because people, like, even if you search something like that, like, hey, I'm trying to switch compliance platforms, but I'm thinking about usability, like, you wouldn't get a good answer. Now you actually can get a good answer, but we're not going to get third-party search volume on that. So we just have to look at customer research and then put together questions. And what we do is we create a bunch of questions using an in-house app that we built, and then we tag them and we aggregate it on the tags. Okay, every prompt that includes California, that's like, it's almost like an index fund for California. And then we can see, here's how often we show up for any prompt about California. And then what that allows us to do is compare, okay, here's our visibility for California compared to Colorado. And an important thing is we don't actually know exactly how this is mirroring what people are getting, but we spot check it ourselves and we view it as directional. So if one is way higher than the other, it means something. But if things are close, like every time you ask this stuff, you get different questions. So last thing I'll say here before a pause is search is now probabilistic. It's like you ask the same question 10 times, you're going to get 10 different answers. But what we're looking for is what are the common threads throughout those answers so that we can get a probabilistic understanding of how AI search understands your brand and makes recommendations for people's problems based on their situations.
And this shift is driving a lot of the change from like clicks to impressions. Is that accurate?
Yep. I think we're moving from a click to an influence model where before, and as marketers, we want everything to be nice and neat and trackable and UTMs. And look, this page drove this MQL and this page is associated with these keywords.
Time out. I don't know if marketers care. The CEO and boards do. I'll put it.
Fair enough. Well, yes, I think marketers care because they have to be able to explain it to non-marketers.
No, exactly.
Who want things to be explained to them.
We do care, but like it's driving. We're put under immense pressure to say, well, you spent this dollar to your point. So like, what happened? So, come on. It's not exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
But I'm going to unpack that in a minute, by the way. I'm going to unpack what we're doing with that too, Nigel. But keep going.
So if before it was I'd search like sexual harassment training California, I see a bunch of blue links, I click one, we know that the California page drove that. Now what might happen is I go to ChatGPT or Google and I have a longer question like, hey, here's what I'm looking for. My business is in California. This is the problems we're looking to solve. Easy Llama might get recommended in an answer. There might be a link and there might not. And even if there is a link, it's not going to say, hey, they searched something about California. It's like maybe it goes to a page about California. It often just goes to the homepage. So then what we're sort of getting, like the data is getting more abstract, and we can say, okay, this is the referral traffic we got from ChatGPT, but also people are saying they found us on ChatGPT and came back another way. So again, that's what I mean by all these imperfect data sources. You have prompt data, which is directionally useful, not the word of God. You have traffic data, which is, okay, we got traffic from ChatGPT. That doesn't tell us everything. And then we have the down funnel data. But we also have to look at self-attribution and sort of put together all these imperfect data sources to tell a story with the highest confidence possible. And I think you poke holes in all those, you're not wrong. It's just, this is the world we live in, and we want to make the most of it.
Yeah, you definitely need software attribution, self-reported attribution, and I would call account executive attribution, where they are asking the question, how'd you hear about us? Because if you put all three of those things together, and if you have like software attribution that does both first and last touch, you should get a pretty good idea of, to your point, what is influencing, what marketing activities and channels influence the majority and minority of your buyers across that pre-sale customer journey. I mean, you really should. And then it's just a matter of like putting percentages to kind of like the investment, if you will, at different points in the life cycle. Like, I just think though, you got to take the software attribution with an extreme grain of salt, right? Because of cookie tracking and blockers and VPNs. I mean, you just shut off your VPN before this, right? Like, so a lot of people are, using not just those things, but also browsers now are being so much smarter, right? Like, there's that new AI search or maybe not AI search, browser, but what is it again? Atlas, I think? Because
Yep, there's the OpenAI one, Atlas, Perplexity has Comet, and that's sort of like a next step of what we're already seeing, where instead of me having to go to ChatGPT and ask a specific question, it's like, well, here's what I want you to do. Go find the best solutions, go to their websites, go to their pricing pages, do this. And that's why another thing we're starting to look at is how do agents understand our website? And surprise, surprise, a lot of the time websites are slow or confusing, and the websites that are able to get an advantage with agents are actually going to perform better.
So what should we do with that? Unpack that a little bit. That's interesting. So agents or bots, or is an agent and a bot difference? First, let's start there.
You know what? I'm gonna say that I am not qualified to answer. There's probably some like person who's smarter, nerdier in this area than me, that if I answer it, I don't want them to jump on my throat. But my definition would be an agent is taking multiple steps. A bot is usually like kind of dumber. It's like Google's crawl bots. It just follows links all around and it has simple instructions. Agents are powered by AI. And they're basically told, hey, like, here's underlying logic to go fulfill a job for me and to do these things. And the key is multiple steps. So even if right now it's like I'm doing one search in ChatGPT or even having a conversation, now it's like, I want you to go to all these websites and take these actions. Like the example people give is like not in B2B, but book a trip for me. So here's my preferences. Now go do this. Now, the truth is that like we're in the very early stages of this. So like, do we think at this moment agents are making or breaking any numbers? No, but the same way a couple years ago, if you said, oh, this AI stuff, whatever, like later it'll become good, and then you get behind on that. So we want to get ahead of it.
What's your take on like conversion? Like, you know, with SEO, a lot of people like, oh, it's just like traffic. And then it became apparent that like, no, it's not just about traffic. It's about like the quality of the traffic, but most importantly, like, what is it doing for you? Like if 10,000 people come to your website, but one convert, like what are you doing? So like, what's your take with conversion? Because you made a comment just a moment ago about like these AI search engines might be sending a lot of people to your homepage. So like, yeah, I mean like landing pages now and the depth of your website. Yeah, like what's your take of conversion?
Well, I think this ends up being kind of an attribution question. So it's like, okay, zoom out, like the most basic thing. What do we care about? We're a business. We want to make money. Are meetings going in that then turn into money?
You better believe it.
And at the end of the day, like, that's all that matters. And then it's the question is what's driving it? And then that's an attribution question. So like what conversions often means is it's attribution. Like you're indirectly asking about attribution because, okay, with SEO, with search, what is being attributed to this channel? What the message we're trying to put out there is we can't approach that in such a linear fashion where it's, well, here's like the referral traffic from ChatGPT is pathetic compared to what you would expect from Google. But there are all these studies that say it converts more, and I think there's something to that. But I think the other thing is just the influence of ChatGPT is not being captured in attribution because so many of those people are coming back direct or via brand search, and then the conversions are kind of getting bucketed in a different place. And that's why it's so important to look at, like within HubSpot, you can look at what pages touch someone across the funnel. That's part of it. But then the other thing is just trying to figure out where did people hear about you? And this is the same thing as like someone clicks a paid ad and you say, oh, look, paid is working great for us. And then if you ask them, they're like, well, like my friend at this cocktail party told me about what you do. And it's not wrong to attribute it to paid, but it's incomplete. So if attribution is getting to be like a smaller piece of the pie of what we can understand, we want to maximize that, but then figure out all these other ways to find out from people, how did you hear about us?
That's a good answer. So I want to have you answer this next question, yes or no. You cannot say it depends.
You're killing me, Mark.
Should you have a blog today?
Yes.
Okay, unpack that, please.
Well, okay, yeah, of course, and here comes the it depends.
No.
But what it means is content. So what I think the subtext of your question, if I may make some assumptions here, is like, please. I think for many years companies were on a content treadmill of like, I am a company, I have to have a blog, I must hire a writer, we must all write the what is a CRM blog post or whatever my industry is. That I think was kind of a waste of time for a while, and it's an extra waste of a time now. But in a time where, let's zoom out a bit, like AI is leveling the playing field when it comes to a product development perspective. Like everything is getting harder, distribution matters. You want to have a perspective. So if you have nothing to say, don't have a blog, rely on other things. But if you think about a blog as both a credibility marker and a way to like put your perspective out there, I think it matters. So again, it's like when someone says the word blog now has so much like sort of baggage that I think it rightfully is earned by its people said just have a blog, pump out mediocre content. That I think is a waste of time. But if you're evaluating a company, do you want to see that they have a perspective, and can content be a way to help inform a market consensus and answer your questions? I think it's yes. So there you go.
Yeah, I would just not. So what we're doing on the Easy Llama website, you'll be part of this very soon, is we're going to change our blog to a magazine.
Mm.
And it is some of the stuff that we write in that magazine will be actually printed for different purposes. But the magazine is going to feature, like, if you do read magazines still, which I highly recommend marketers listening, engage with non-digital formats to get inspiration and understand stuff that you should now put into the digital world, especially for B2B. So a magazine, you have exposés, you have like features on people. You know, I read actually I went to the University of New Hampshire. They have a great magazine that comes out every quarter. I read that. I look at my wife's magazines that she sometimes gets. Yeah, she still does sometimes get magazines. I'm looking at that. I'm looking at the magazine that comes from our local community. I don't even call it a magazine, Nigel, but like it's something. It's a piece of content that is printed that is talking about topics and subjects that are either timely, very person first, and like I think to your point around not talking about these like fluffy top of funnel keywords and topics, but like having your magazine on your website now be about like the point of view of your customers, the point of view in the market, research you're doing, like that stuff I think is going to be very important for the influence model that we're now living in.
Yep. So I see that as sort of like the blog has so much baggage that if you're going to do it, you want to do it properly, and maybe you want to rebrand it just because like I think I do that. Like when I see blog, I kind of automatically roll my eyes. So it depends on if you equate blog with having content and a perspective. And my initial answer, that's what I did. But if you're just going to have a blah blog, then yeah, forget about it.
Well, that's the thing. Like people like, see a blog and it's like, I don't go to a blog, like, but they see like a magazine, like, so it's a rebrand. It's honestly a product marketing exercise. It's repositioning something that makes it much more compelling and interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And I think design has a huge stake in the success of the new type of blog. If you call it a magazine or a publication or XYZ, media, like whatever you want to do, however you want to position it, name it, call it, but like how you actually design that too, both for the human reading it, but also then it's interesting, like you said, agents, and again, maybe it's a little bit above your knowledge right now, but like, how is the agent going to read that magazine?
Okay, this is actually so I think one of the themes that's always been in SEO is you have people and bots. And I think that is actually now more extreme, because if you think about it, we first cared about people and bots, it was still like people had to go to every website to get the content. Like even think before there was featured snippets in Google. It's like literally an example I use all the time is like people used to make lots of money off of what time does the Super Bowl start? Because it was like an ARB. Like there wasn't that information that in the Google SERP. So you could just rank number one for that. And then in February, make like $2 million from a bunch of people clicking on it to get literally the most commoditized information on the earth. But now fast forward, there's featured snippets. You're getting some information from Google. Now fast forward, you don't have to go to anybody to get anything. You can ask an AI tool, like, do this research for me, and it'll come back with it. And what that means is you have to care more about, do AI bots, agents, all these things, can they understand and follow your website? But then when someone does land, we have so much, like everyone basically has ADD. We're looking at notifications all the time. Our bar is higher than ever. So you kind of almost paradoxically have to care more about agents and bots than ever before. And when someone gets there, there's never been a higher bar to actually retain their attention and be rhetorically convincing. So I think we simultaneously need to thread the needle of make sure that we are understood by agents and search engines, but then really care about breaking pattern recognition when it comes to our actual experience. Because when someone actually clicks through after like all these AI steps, you don't want them to be like, oh, another blog, and then they leave.
No, yeah, exactly. And actually, to unpack what you're saying even more, what about voice? Because you could just ask, to your example, your phone, Google or iPhone, when does the Super Bowl start? And you don't even go to a place. So I think that's another thing for B2B marketers to eventually tap into. It's like, what is going to happen with voice? And we just learned that Google is going to fix supposedly Apple's whole voice platform, Siri. I think that is a huge, for B2C, it's already happening. It's a huge frontier. I don't know. B2B is very interesting, Nigel. I don't know.
Yeah. I see voice, there's sort of like sources and mediums. Voice is like a different way to go about the same thing. Like, in my opinion, easier. Like, one thing I've noticed is there's some things that, like, I don't want to do on my, because I'm like an old man attitude. I don't use voice as much. So for things where I want to have a more extensive conversation, I'll use my computer because I can type. But at some point, I'm going to catch up to everybody else and start using voice. And then again, what's the general pattern here? It's people using natural language and not searching in keywords. So you can add more details, and then the long tail and the context becomes everything. So again, bringing this back to what do we care about search? It's like all the little problems and nuances that your customers face didn't used to matter for search. Now it's most of what matters.
I love it. One last thing, ads. What's going on with ads in AI search? ChatGPT, I mean, Google, it's a whole cluster in my opinion, but like ChatGPT, like what is going on, and what do you think is going to happen?
So it seems like they're in like the early stages of figuring all this out. If you just, from a simple, I don't think I have like a super unique perspective on this, but just look at the money. OpenAI is incinerating more capital than any company in human history, to my knowledge. They can't do that forever. Well, how do they make money? They can do more in subscription or do more in ads. And what is the other night at dinner, Mark, we were talking about how you can learn from history what will happen in the future.
Yeah, history is the best predictor of the future. Yeah.
And what have we learned from history? Ads. Everybody does ads. Like that famous when Zuck was getting interrogated by the congressman or senator who didn't know anything about the business. And he goes, "Senator, we sell ads." Like that's going to be ChatGPT at some point. So that's inevitable. And then I would see like ChatGPT becoming similar to Google, where there's like a ad parts in it on top of it, and then there's answers. Right now, it being ad free, like you're gonna look back on this as the good old days before too long. Like, oh, remember when ChatGPT didn't have ads and it was super cheap? Like that's, I don't know the timeline on that, but the days are numbered. And then similarly with Google and AI mode, like the difference between Google and ChatGPT and OpenAI is, yeah, Google has an existing business model, and they have to figure out how to squeeze as much money out of AI mode. But I, for one, am fully confident that they'll be able to do it. If there's one thing, Google has bungled so many products over the years, but there's one thing they know how to do, it's squeeze ad money out of search. So they have enough PhDs and Stanford grads and really smart people. I'm sure they'll be able to squeeze ad dollars out of this surface as well. The only thing is they're going to have to move slower. Like, OpenAI seems to just, I know I heard that when they priced their pro subscription, it was based on the scientific process of Sam Altman saying, I think it should be $200. So that's maybe a difference between them and Google, who is going to test the hell out of it. But at the end of the day, there's going to be ads covering all these things. And so much of search is coming full circle. And then it'll be some equivalent of, you have your ads and you have your organic. What does that look like exactly? I don't know, but I'm pretty confident in that dynamic being constant.
Nigel, so many insights. Thank you so much. What do you want to leave us with? You have a topic?
Yeah, I think one thing, I think I've talked about this with you before, is like the way that we think about off-page changes a lot. So again, comparing traditional SEO with AI search, one thing I noticed when I was at BigCommerce was if you Googled BigCommerce review, you would have all these, sorry if any of these people are listening to this, but horrific affiliate websites with like, and this was like back in like early 2010s, it would be like, in this BigCommerce review, I will discuss this BigCommerce review. And I thought, man, it's weird that if I Google BigCommerce review, I'm getting all these affiliate pages that are clearly garbage. But it was sort of understood as like, well, SEO and affiliate are weird. That makes money. It was viewed as a purely like CPC channel. And you care about if someone lands on that page, but because it had an ROI on it, people kind of turned a blind eye. And now those really matter, because if you Google something about a company or you ask ChatGPT and it says, well, they're good at this, they're bad at this. If you look at what the sources are, it's oftentimes like affiliates, review sites. So one thing that we're doing with our customers is we're looking at, okay, what are all these sources of influence? And then which ones do we already have a relationship with? So which ones are affiliates or could be affiliates? Which ones are review sites that maybe we have a review motion with? And then if we can see, okay, here's where we don't perform well in AI search, or here's what it says about us that we don't like, we can see where that comes from. Which one of those can we go to reframe it? And how can we create new like kind of sources of influence out there. So again, like I think the broad heuristic is you want to represent yourself as well as possible on your website, but that's only like a fraction of the pie of what are all the information sources out there on you. And then you want to think systematically about which ones can we go out and influence over time. And then things like reviews, that used to be a totally different, that was only mildly connected to SEO. Now, like literally the sentiment from reviews get quoted in ChatGPT. I've seen it like somewhat frequently. So now SEO is, and this is sort of like my answer is like evolving a little bit here, going into a different subject. If search used to be 2-dimensional and it was just blue links on top of blue links, now it's 3-dimensional. It's not just like, am I being listed, but what's being said about me? How do I understand that over time? How do we analyze it? And like, we're building tools to like analyze like the sentiment over time to see, okay, how is this changing or not? But again, it just adds another dimension. So I think for all the in-house marketers out there, it's SEO and AEO, whatever you want to call it, has never been more cross-functional, because for your reputation and understanding in AI search to be what you want it to be, your partners have to say the right things, reviews have to say the right things, affiliates have to say the right things, market analysts are influencing that. So it's very much like a bunch of people have to work together kind of thing.
I think it's, the easiest way to think about it is from ranking to influencing. And I agree, it's a very cross-functional thing because, you have a research report that an analyst does, that's going to get picked up potentially by ChatGPT, and it's a way for them to then serve up an answer or response, I should say, to a very natural question someone asks, and it might cite that more heavily than what you have on your website. So, Nigel, as always, very insightful. Thank you so much for the time today.
Thanks for having me, Mark. This is always fun to talk shop with you.
Folks, thanks for listening. Head over to the GTM library if you want to check out more content from Nigel. He's got his webinar on tackgtm.com. Thanks again, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye. Thanks for joining us on this episode of GTM News Desk, presented by TAC and produced in partnership with Share Your Genius. For more newsworthy GTM content, head to tackgtm.com and join our community at thegtmlibrary.com. Until next time.